Hey there, folks. Welcome to Head, Heart, and Hustle, the podcast for creatives. I'm Alan Plummer, your host, and as always, thank you for listening. Now, anyone with a side hustle or creative outlet can feel isolated from their friends, their family, and others around them who just don't get their passion. That's why Head, Heart, and Hustle exists, to help you feel motivated, learn, and just get a nice pick-me-up of creative energy from other people like yourself. Every episode, I interview a creative individual who doesn't just pretend to be creative. They've rolled up their sleeves and are producing great things because they need to. They know that being creative is part of who they are. Sound familiar? Awesome, you're in the right place. Now, today I'm with Eulanda and Omo. Eulanda and Omo are bloggers from the UK. They do a travel blog called Hey, Dip Your Toes In. I've been saving them for the last episode of season 2. Yes, this is the last episode of the season. Thanks for hanging in there. And so we had a wonderful conversation. I think this is going to be a great episode for anyone who is looking to do more collaborations creatively or is thinking about spinning their creativity off into a true side business, not just necessarily a creative project, but maybe a way to kind of generate revenue and income and how to think of your creativity as a business. So, I'm excited to share this one with you guys. I will say we had some technology issues. It's my first international interview. They sound great. I'm going to sound a little bit like I'm talking through a tin can or on a bad cell phone reception. My apologies for that, but just hang in there. I will speak as minimally as possible, but they will sound great. Their insights are wonderful, and you guys are going to love it. So let's dive in. So guys, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. I should start out by letting everyone know that this is kind of actually my first trans or intercontinental discussion. You guys are in the UK, right? You guys are outside of London?
Yeah.
Yes, we live in Kent, which basically shares a border with London. Yeah.
Awesome. So it's a big moment for me. One, I'm glad that we've got a good connection to be able to talk, and we've got a good internet connection. But yeah, this is exciting for me. I've done a lot of folks here in the US, across the US, but this is great. So why don't we start off with letting you guys introduce yourselves? You guys can certainly do it better than I can. So why don't we start there and just tell our listeners kind of who you guys are and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Well, I'm Eulanda.
And I'm Omo.
And we run Hey, Dip Your Toes In, also known as HDYTI, for short of better words. But it's a food and travel platform that we started just a little bit over 2 years ago now. And we kind of started it a bit as a food diary of sorts. We actually met in London. This Omo is from Nigeria, and I'm from the US. I'm from Colorado. And we basically met in London, started dating, got married. I was there for graduate school. He'd been there already for, 7 or 8 years?
Yeah,
maybe?
about 8 years.
Yeah. So from there, we realized we had so many things in common. Like we both love to cook. My family comes from a restaurant culture type of family. They always had cooking and food culture in the family. And then him coming from Nigeria had a very rich and colorful food culture there. So we had a lot of things in common in terms of food. And then one thing we noticed was immediately, because we actually met online dating, was we both loved to travel. And that was one thing that really stood out to me whenever he reached out to me when we were dating. He mentioned some of the places that, I traveled to, and he asked me questions, and it wasn't like the normal cut and paste, I like long walks on the beach kind of thing. So, the ones that you just are like, please, like, just really, dude, go away. It wasn't any of those types of messages. So immediately he engaged. It really caught my eye. And we just hit it off really at the beginning. And we're just kind of talking about the places we wanted to go to and travel and see. But we never knew that, 5.5 years down the road, that we'd be where we are today. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to talk about the blog.
Yeah, so it's interesting that our creative journey as a couple began 2.5 years ago. But she has always been a creative. She's always worked in photography, dance, design. My day job is as an IT risk professional, and that there's very little creativity involved in doing that. You follow a bunch of rules and just do things by the book. So meeting her was basically my door to creativity. She helped the relationship, as we began to develop our interest in travel and food, began to unlock my creativity, and we realized that we could work together and actually, move this thing from idea to real, implementation. So it's been an interesting journey for both of us.
Definitely.
I always had an interest in art, in writing, but I never did anything about it. I was more an onlooker or a consumer on the outside looking in. And so this project of ours has helped me to basically just dive right in and start to explore my own creative abilities as well.
Yeah, it's actually been amazing to see him from the outside, from 5 years ago or so when we met to now. And I remember asking him some questions then, like, have you ever thought about having your own business, or have you ever wanted to do anything creative, artistic, or anything? And yeah, he was always like, well, yeah, I've thought about maybe taking a class to learn how to make a film, like documentaries. I could imagine myself doing something like that. He's like, but I could never imagine myself having my own business, kind of thing at this point. And then just seeing the progression, because it's amazing to see creatives that as adults, they become creatives and they tap into it in such a different way than, say, like a child that was trained to be a creative, or to kind of go down that path of, always embracing their artistic dreams. And he's just jumped into it in such an amazing way, because I think because of his IT background as well, like he approaches it with such
very methodical.
But I learned from that myself too, because I can be a bit of a free spirit sometimes when it comes to being a creative, and then seeing the kind of discipline that he also brings to the table then also helps me in my process. So yeah, it's been really great to work on that and bring those two kind of worlds together.
Eulanda, what was your childhood like? Were you a creative child growing up?
Yeah, it's funny. I think about it quite often in terms of what was that one thing that I was really drawn to as a child. And I think putting things together was the thing that I was drawn to as a child. Bringing people together and kind of, in a sense, directing people. That was something I was really good at from a young age. My parents really couldn't afford, art lessons, dance lessons, those types of things. Like, we just didn't have the money for it growing up. So, we tried to take as much advantage as we could of like free resources in the community, reading programs and dance, free dance classes and stuff. My mom, I remember taking my first ballet class, and all of the girls had these like beautiful tutus. And I said, I was like, Mom, I don't have a tutu. And I'm sure at that point she couldn't, they couldn't afford to go buy, some tutu in some fancy dance store. So she, we went to the fabric store and she bought some tulle and a piece of elastic, and made me my tutu. And I was just so excited, because then I could choreograph in the living room. So I was always trying to put things together. I always wanted to create and put something together. So yeah, dance and telling a story. Really, telling a story was probably the earliest thing I can remember doing in terms of creatively in my life. And some of the early things were just, creating shows for the adults for holidays, for Christmas holidays and stuff. And I would get all the kids together, I'd teach them all the songs. We'd have rehearsals. And from what they told me, still to this day, I was a bit of a taskmaster, but I don't believe I think I was encouraging. I don't think.
I've heard stories. Let's just say I've heard stories.
I did snap the.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's probably a few of those still around, but I didn't snap the whip too hard. But yeah, I mean, I wanted it to be good, so we really rehearsed, and we put on the shows for the adults, and it was a good time. So that was just a way to bring the family together and create things. And from that point, I think as a child, it really was about making the most out of very, as little as we had. Again, there was a lot of things I wanted to do. I wanted to take like karate lessons. I wanted, all the things that kids want to do. You want to do it all. You want to try it all, even though you probably won't stick with it all. But, in the end, it was like music. They had a free music program in school. So I, started playing multiple instruments, and they had free dance classes after school. And then it's kind of a summer dance program. And then, a few other sports, like things like, tennis. But really, when it came down to it, was I always wanted to create something and bring people together. I think it was probably when I was about 12, I created my first business. It was called Bayani Designs. My grandfather used to call me Yanni, and that was my nickname. And my dad was like, I think you should create like a clothing label because you like to sew. And so I decided, I like skiing. So let me put together like a type of ski hat that people would wear on the slopes. So I started designing ski hats, sewing those. And then what happened was that people started actually really liking them. And I got a local like ski shop to carry the designs. And then I started getting orders in, and I couldn't keep up with the orders. So then I hired my mother and my grandmother to sew for me, help sew. I don't, they actually didn't take any money. They just made it seem like I was, hiring them. They're like, you could hire us. We'll sew for you, kind of thing. So, to help. Exactly. It's an internship. That's it. So yeah, just kept the ski shop stocked with hats and whatnot. But yeah, it was just I was a bit, I guess you could say, for lack of better words, as a multi-potentialite. I just kind of had my fingers in a bit of everything as a child, and just really wanted to tell stories and bring that all together.
Omo, you alluded to this a couple times already, but you've evolved quite a bit as a creative since meeting Eulanda. Can you talk a little bit about that? What's that evolution been like for you?
So before I met, so just a bit of background. So growing up in Nigeria, culturally, parents tend to try to push their kids in very specific career directions. So, most immigrant families in the US probably follow the same pattern of wanting their kids to either be doctors, lawyers, engineers, very, very straight professions. And so I went down that route. I had a degree in computer science and then went off and began working in IT in Nigeria. And my career sort of progressed, and I moved through a number of opportunities to move to the UK. And I'd always worked in environments where doing things by the book was the order of the day. You had to follow a set of principles and rules and formulas to get results. And so I'd always done that. But having met Eulanda and started this journey of the blog, HDYTI together, I find that it gives me an opportunity to sort of escape. And I find it gives me an opportunity to just express myself in very, very different ways. There's very little structure. There is some structure around what we do, but most of it is about just going with my gut, going with how I feel, and really just allowing my inner thoughts to really just flow in either the writing that I do or the way we develop pitches to clients or photography projects that we do together. And so for me, it's been an evolution in the sense that now I understand a bit better, and I appreciate the fact that I have this release and then I can always sort of go to that release and sort of express myself very differently.
So what does work-life balance look like for you guys? You guys obviously are both very busy individuals. What's it like juggling your professional lives and something as important as this passion is for you guys, and admittedly can be kind of all-encompassing?
Oh boy, I feel like it's a bit, honestly, I feel like we don't have kids yet, but I mean, that is the plan. And it's already manic now. Like, it's balance doesn't necessarily exist right now, really. I mean, there's times where we're working 7 days a week, getting up, early, and then working until, we need to just scarf something down to eat, and then hopefully try to catch a show, watch something on TV. And then sometimes there's events, going out to the events, but there seems to be there's not a point of normalcy, quote unquote, I guess you can say. Last year was quite challenging because we were on the road. I think we visited like 17 different countries. So we were constantly, yeah, I know. Last year, 2016, it was 17 different countries. Yeah. We didn't actually realize it was that many until someone asked us, like, how many countries did you travel to? And we had to prepare the question. So we're just going back through, trying to look over records and trying to figure it out. And we were like, wow, no wonder why we were just completely exhausted, like travel fatigued by the end of the year. So
that feeling that you have, just get comfortable with it, because it doesn't change. And it's wonderful. I love being a parent, but I am used to
we've
being
been
exhausted.
told that so many times.
Yeah. So I think for us, what we try to do is we've made a very conscious decision to try and be present in everything we do, present in the moment, be very conscious about what we're doing. So for example, when we travel for work or on a press trip, we always try to make sure that we have time where we switch off all the devices and just connect with each other and just try and find some time to just be in that moment and be ourselves. And to be honest, what I've found is that a lot of what we do is driven by passion. We enjoy what we do. And so sometimes it doesn't even feel like work.
It's true.
We just feel very passionate about creating the content that we deliver to our readers or our clients. And that helps a lot to help us find some balance, so to speak.
Yeah, we're not complaining. We're not saying that, oh goodness, we hate the schedule and we just want to escape. Honestly, we love what we're doing right now. We have the energy to do it and go at this speed or level right now, and we are trying to take advantage of it. We want to build our dream, and there's not any big complaints there. But sometimes we do think, oh, what would it feel like to actually have some more normalcy? But really, I don't know. I almost feel like crazy is kind of our normal, and it's okay.
One of the things I love to ask people is how they define success. What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, building our dream is quite a few things. We're trying to get away from seeing it as the traditional ways of deeming someone successful. Before it was, okay, let's make sure that we have, a house, in the countryside or, somewhere, just the traditional kind of ways that you would think of, okay, that person has kind of made it, they have a few properties and, they feel very comfortable. But for us, I think it's changed a lot by the community that we've started to grow. And we've started to realize that there are needs within these different micro communities that we've grown. And so now we're really starting to feel like being successful means, when we feel like we can meet those needs, like how can we meet those needs a lot better? How can we meet those needs more effectively? How can we really, really get our community to come together and to really feel taken care of, to feel successful as a unit, that it's no longer just about us and this kind of singular approach of things and items and the excesses of life. So yeah, I mean, of course, there's a few excesses, things that we want. Yeah, of course, we wouldn't mind a property in Portugal somewhere, in the Mediterranean, and a little mini vineyard. Yeah, I don't know if we'll do the vineyard work yet, but
You're looking like, oh, that's work. I can already see the wheels turning. You're like, yes, that requires manual labor.
We watched a show on BBC the other night, and they showed the pains of owning a vineyard, and so we were like, yeah, I don't know.
Get more interns. Take a lesson from your sewing days. Get some interns that want to do that for a living.
Put them to work.
That's right. Exactly. Problem solved.
Exactly. All done. Take it to the bank.
One of the things I love about your response, and I hear this a lot, it's definitely a rhythm that I hear. It's this idea of giving back. So you use the term community a lot, which I think is wonderful. I've interviewed other creative people, artists, and photographers, and illustrators, and writers, and they all talk about this idea of not creating in a vacuum, right? Because we all love the process of creating, but at the end of the day, you want what you're creating to be shared with other people. And I like the fact that you guys use this idea of community and kind of that interaction with people. But I feel like that idea of giving back in your terms is a really common theme for people that are creative. Because there's this kind of element of, like almost this kind of, you're in the moment and you're creating, but then there's kind of almost this handoff where it's not yours anymore. And it kind of takes on a life of its own.
So true. That's
very true.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about your process, talked a little bit about your idea of success. Let's talk for a second about some of the lessons that you guys have learned. So one of the things I always ask people is like their advice for other people who are creative. What kind of advice, or before we get into that, let's talk about one of the biggest lessons that you guys have had. Like, has there been any kind of like an aha moment that was either really, really positive or kind of a misstep where kind of you might have said, oh, you know what, I would do that differently next time, or any kind of lessons that you've had where you've really kind of gained a lot of knowledge?
Well, one of the first things that when we began this process of building a blog and the digital media platforms around it, we were very driven by the numbers challenge. We thought we had to go after the numbers and have tons and tons of followers and be able to show brands and clients that we pitch to that we've got this massive community behind us. But we quickly realized that there's no way we could keep up with that game. And so we began to focus a lot more on quality and developing quality content, building quality relationships, having quality conversations. And that just opened up new opportunities for us, because we suddenly began to realize that there are brands and there are people out there who value quality over quantity. And that just completely changed our approach to what we do and how we do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
I love that, because you're speaking my language, right? So as a marketer and a former journalist, I focus on content marketing, and content quality. I think you've got a future kind of in that space, because you're saying exactly what like the cutting edge marketers are saying right now. It's quality over quantity.
Absolutely. I mean, too, following that is showing up. There's times when being your own boss, being a content creator, you kind of play this game with yourself, because you're constantly in this, how can I do better? What happens whenever something doesn't convert? When, you've spent all this time creating something, it doesn't convert into, whatever you want it to convert into. Maybe that's sales, maybe that's referrals, or, more people, viewership, whatever, engagement. And it just doesn't work. But you still have to show up. You can take the content, you can repurpose the content. And that was an aha moment for us, was, seeing some of our old content and saying, you know what, it wasn't created in vain. We can actually repurpose this content in a different way. We can actually kind of extrapolate this content and spread it out to meet other needs, to meet other niches, and kind of create a new type of ecosystem where our content has life over and over and over again. And for us, that was a huge aha moment in the last year.
Yeah. And just one more thing to add to that is, we realized very quickly that people gravitate towards us when we solve problems for them. And so whenever we create anything, or whenever we're in the process of creating, we constantly ask and challenge ourselves about the value of what we're creating. We ask ourselves questions like, what need does it meet? What questions does it answer? Who does this help? How, if someone were to share this content we create with someone else, does it make them look good? So that really for us helped, again, just radicalize the approach to the way we do things.
Definitely.
So what advice would you give to listeners and other people who are either starting on their creative journey, right? Kind of whether it's just kind of discovering their own creative outlets, or there's somebody who's pretty well trained and well versed in creativity throughout their life.
Well, in the past year, we've begun to engage with a lot more people who are at the beginning stage of entrepreneurship with their creative abilities. So people who are thinking about starting a side hustle, thinking about starting a creative business or project on the side, who have been talking about it for a while but haven't quite done anything about it. The advice we always have for them is just do it. Find some time. We began this whole blog on a coffee table in a shop somewhere in South London. We just sat down for an hour or so over some food and a coffee, and just sketched out our brand, sketched out what we wanted to achieve. We came up with the brand name and everything, and that was just basically converting talk into action. So the first thing is really just do it. Don't hold back.
Yeah, I think that's great, babe. I kept getting this image of a pinata in my head. And that would be my advice is to stop putting on a blindfold, grabbing a bat and hitting the pinata blindly. It just doesn't work. It can be fun. And guess what? You might hit it. You might be the one to hit it, and you might hit it so hard that some candy falls out. But more than likely, you won't hit it, and there will be someone else who will hit it, and the candy will fall out. So why don't you be that person that sees the candy and grab it first versus the person still with the blindfold on? And we take that approach in terms of um, creating a community where there's focus, where we see each other's content. Try to create collaborations with others, that, and they don't have to be in your specific niche. They can be, cross industries that have a connection, but create those collaborations, find something to work on, promote each other, and then hijack each other's audience. So that's I think a big piece of advice that I think I would give.
How did you guys end up developing some of those collaborations? And was that a bit of an adjustment in terms of kind of your creative way of thinking and giving up some of that control and kind of coming to maybe not necessarily a partnership, but coming to some kind of a mediation there, instead of being the sole driving force behind something? What's that been like?
You've always done collaborations in your photography work, haven't
you?
Yeah,
I definitely come from the world of collaborations, but then I also, as a business owner, I used to run a dance studio, and it was just me, and it was a very kind of lonely journey. And I remember a point of just thinking, wow, this is quite lonely. Like I would love to, I would love to be able to work with people in a different way versus just saying, I had instructors that I'd hired and I was the one giving direction, but it was just different. It's different when you don't have someone, someone that you're actually working with, sharing responsibility with, and you're both investing into the artistic vision of what you're trying to create. So collaborations are definitely quite big for me. I think coming from photography, working with other vendors in the photography world. So doing things like styled shoots. I used to do a lot of styled shoots when I was doing a lot of photography before. And that was a great way to come together with, a specific look in mind, some type of objective we wanted to achieve in terms of our target audience, what type of images were they looking for, and how then can we create a really great theme around that, to really address the needs of our target audience. And it could be really fun. It can be, sometimes it could be a bit stressful because not everyone could be quite pulling their load, or sometimes some people can be kind of take advantage of you, might take a piss at you. You just have to find that balance and find the right collaborators. Sometimes collaborations are not going to go that well, for lack of better words. Sometimes they absolutely fail, and they'll make you really regret even doing them. But you know what? Try it again. Sometimes it's just about finding the right types of collaborators.
You guys have done so much in the past couple years. What's on the docket for you guys next?
Well, so the blog will always remain the center, the hub around which everything sort of revolves. We've begun developing a number of destination retreats for creative entrepreneurs, and we had the first one in Morocco in January, which went really well. And so we're going to replicate that format and have a few more destination-based retreats. We're looking at Portugal, we're looking at Morocco again, and possibly Switzerland at some point. So we're going to keep developing that product. But in between those destination-based retreats, we're also going to be doing a lot of city-based workshops. So we're going to be getting people together in London around a coffee, around a few drinks, to just collaborate, develop new relationships, and just see how we can develop synergies between various creatives. So that's something that we're very passionate about and hope to develop this year. On the product side of things, we're also looking at starting an online store where we're going to be selling and promoting products and goods that come out of Africa. So we have a line that we're starting to develop, which we hope to go live sometime over the summer. So those are just some of the projects that we're starting to look at for this year.
Yeah, and just finding ways to I guess, duplicate ourselves as well, because we're, not that we're like too extended right now, but sometimes there's points where we do feel quite extended, and where we feel like, wow, we just have so much going on. We need to, in a sense, be in two places. So we had started last year working on a contributor network where people can contribute, their pieces, their writing, their photography, so on, to be featured on the blog. So it's not so content driven by things that we produce, but it's curated by us, edited by us as well, just that kind of final eye. So things like that. We're also working with some clients to really develop their social media strategies in a way that is quite visual and unique to their niche, and not just like regular social media management, but we're consulting where we can really get in deep with their brand and their vision, and really align all of their different platforms kind of with their whole ethos of their company. So those are some small things we're doing, and this is just because we tend to get messages like, oh, how can I do this, or how can I do that? And instead of just turning them away and saying, you know what, we can't, there's no way, we don't have time. We're just trying to find ways to fit small things in that make sense, that we can kind of sustainably maintain in our schedule, but still have enough time to work on, building products and, launching more retreats and so on and so forth. So it feels like quite a bit sometimes, but yeah, it's fun.
This has been great. I love this. I always like to wrap up with one final question, which is an easy one, right? So now you guys get to kind of share how people can contact you and reach you, and how they kind of find you guys online. So if you guys want to tell folks where they can find you and how they can get in touch, that would be great.
Definitely. Well, they can go to our blog at heydipyourtoesin.com, and we're very active on social media. So we would love for people to connect with us there. And across all of our social media platforms, quite easy to find us, and it's just Dip Your Toes In. So we take off the hey, it's just Dip Your Toes In at Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat as well. And we're also active on Facebook, so they can find us there at Hey Dip Your Toes In on Facebook. So quite easy to find us.
Yeah, and if anyone is coming over to London and needs help on places to eat, things to do, hit us up on it.
Yeah, drop us a line.
Yeah, we'd love to share our ideas with you.
Wonderful. Thank you both. I really appreciate this. Eulanda, Omo, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for taking time. All right there, folks. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Eulanda and Omo for doing the interview. Now, if you like the episode, shoot me an email and let me know. In fact, to show my appreciation, I'll send you a few stickers and buttons as my way of saying thanks. You can reach me at headheartandhustle@gmail.com or through our website. You can also get email updates from us, which are fairly inconsistent, I'll admit, depending on how busy my life gets. Visit headheartandhustle/newsletter to sign up for those. Remember that you can find us on the web, again, at headheartandhustle.com, and we're all over social media. Our logo was created by Meg Shear, so if you're digging that, you can find her work on Society 6. The music you hear each episode was written and performed by my friends in the band Starch to Sugar. You can check them out on starchtosugar.com and on Facebook. Lastly, if you're interested in being interviewed for an episode in Season 3, contact me at headheartandhustle@gmail.com. As always, thanks for listening. Now go create something, and I'll see you in a couple months.